Okay, so in this video, we are going to go through functions, and typically we are going to continue with the function where we have left off, because in between I have started with like some of the tools which you can use while developing a program, and also I have delved into some version control systems, VCS, as well as source code management and how to do that, and all those things I have gone into. Just because the projects will be coming in and we will be all making projects and everything else. So for that purpose, I have delved into these tools as well as editors which you can use, even if you have a low end system or you do not have that performance system. Okay, because from where I come in, from where the perspective I get this is because not all the students will have that functionality to get everything going with very high end computers, right? So I usually, even I usually like I own I myself I have like a very less performant computer, like it's only 4 GB RAM and like very less processor speed is there. So yeah, even I just work in a very low end systems, and making games in this one is very difficult, obviously, and so it kind of tells me to like optimize the programs in such a way that it will be very performant in a low end hardware. So kind of give me a broader market to reach out, and as well as for the premium market also, like it gives me a place to stay there. So yeah, usually when I program things, I make it very efficient, and Python is one of the efficient programs that you can get, because rather than what is the default notion regarding this one is that Python will be slower than C or C++, because it is a wrapper around C and C++ programming. However, the thing is that when Python was made, typically when Python was made, it was actually made on top of C and C++, and they have utilized every function. They have made every function in such a way that when it is compiled at the end, not typically compiled, or like you could say it is transpiled as well, because it is in bytecode and the interpreter runs it. So it's not bitcode, it's bytecode. So in in all, like if you see this that when you talk about Python, okay, when you talk about Python, Python programming language, we understand this that typically uh, each of these functions, whether it is a mathematical function or whether it is some numpy or some multi-dimensional list functions or anything else, whatever we are utilizing it, it is a very highly optimized inside, because time were taken to make these inbuilt functions and to optimize it overall. That is why Python usually works best in some scenarios. However, if you are like very hardware specific, if you are like making for some esoteric hardware, or even some when I say esoteric hardware, it is just that hardware which are not publicly same as other hardware. So most of the commercial phones are like that, and they do not like release the hardware specification that much. So if you are making a very highly performant games or any applications which are highly performant, Python will not work in that, and then you have to like use some native development kit (NDK) to make it with C and or C++, right? So that is what we have to understand in this one. So, anyways, coming back to the topic, uh, we were actually discussing the user-defined functions and how the user-defined function works. Next, what we are going to discuss is that arguments and parameters. Okay, we are going to discuss the arguments and parameters. So I have one of the demo git stuff is open in here, right? Demo git stuff is open here. Let me make one more directory in this one. So let me say one more directory is let's make it chapter progression. Okay, chapter what? What should we do? Chapter practical. Okay, so we have chapter practicals, and then again in the previous video which I have said, like just like initialize it and get config name. Let's see. Uh, um, and then you have something. This will be right. So there you go. We have configured our typically we have configured our new repository to keep the um, to keep our practicals. Right, we have configured that. Let me just go ahead and let me see if we have that old command sitting in the history or not. Because if we have that, then that is good enough. Or like I have to get those things again. Right. So this is there. The the process ID is 3722. This one. Okay. So this time the process ID is 3722. Right. So it's 3722. Okay. So probably I'm a bit late in this concept. In any case, we can. I have, I, it's not nothing that I can do about it right now. To begin with, so yeah. Um, okay, so let me just make one repository in this one. Okay, so the repository name will be um, chapter practicals, and this will be class. Well, this will not be private. In private will not be everything. It's just an okay. This will be okay. Let me just keep this as a copy, and let me just create this one. Okay, now I have created this one, and then I will just add this remote in here. The permission. Okay, so in the last class, I have explained everything regarding how to work with data and everything else, right? So I'm not going to explain in this one. You could just refer to the previous videos and figure it out from there, like what to do and what not to do. Okay. So next is what? Right, function. So we are working on functions. So in functions, you see, when you make a user-defined functions, you have something called the arguments as well as something called the parameters. Like there are parameters and arguments. The difference between the parameters and arguments is that when you observe this function, okay, when you observe this function here the definition starts from here, right? The definition starts from here, and then there is a greet in here, and then the name is in here, right? So the name is in here. So now in here, the name is your parameter. This name in here is the parameter. Okay. And when you call this function after this function body is over, then this is called the argument. So Alice and Bob is the arguments of this one. So that is what is the difference between your variables, which is in the function definition, as well as the variables values, which is like the literals which is given in the argument, that is the argument in this one. Okay. So we have to understand in this one that is typically your uh, that is typically your understanding in this one. Okay. So now, what else we have to do now? Yes. So now we have to understand like the arguments and the parameters and everything else we have to understand. Everything we have to understand. So we will make one file as arg and para.py. Okay, we are going to make this one. Okay. So again, the practicals will be what? I always tell to like type your own practicals rather than copy pasting it. Although I've given some facility to like copy the programs and do it and that way, so that is there. Okay. So let me just give. So we have def. Def is means the definition of the function, and this is read. All right. And then we get the parameters are this. These are other parameters. Okay. And then what we have is here print, and we are going to print is hello. Hello, we are going to print, and keep in mind that there are two ways to utilize your print commands. Okay, one way is like hello, and another variable could be name, and then we have like space, and then we can have an exclamation mark in this one. Okay, we can have an exclamation mark in this one, and then that is done. And then when we call this as as a function, we call this. As a function when we call this one, then what will happen is that we will get the output similar to what was given in your in the book itself. Okay. So that is what we are going to get. Right. That is what we are going to get. Right. So okay. So this is done. So let's run this one. Okay. Let's run this one, and we are going to get the clarity in what we are doing. Okay, so we are getting in here, hello Alice and hello Bob, we are getting in this one. So our program is correct. However, if you observe the both of the programs, let's see, we are going to observe the both of the programs. The both of the programs now, let's monitor both of them. So Python, not Python. We are going to use this one, isn't it? So okay, we're going to use this one. Let me resize this a bit if I can. Resize it a bit. Okay. So if you observe this, okay, if you observe this, then there is look in here. The comma is before the double inverted comma in here, right? The comma is before the double inverted comma in here, or you can say that the quotation before the quotation is the comma is in here, right? So before the quotation, the comma is in here, and the name variable, which is considered the parameter in here, right? This is considered a parameter in here. It is joined with the concatenation operator. Okay, it is joined with the concatenation operator. So yeah, this is one way to do. Another way to do is just utilize commas and separate the strings and your variables or parameters. Both way you can do. This is just that it is using the concatenation operator of the strings, and so like people may get confused whether to use that or this one. But Python supports both ways. Okay, Python supports both ways to work on it. Okay, so that is the key differences, which was not actually given in the book itself, because like typing stuff is like harder and more time taking, and talking is faster. So yeah, but then again, yes, people could read faster because the writer has taken pain to write everything in detail. So a reader could read faster than watching videos. Okay, let me just drink something. Okay, so that is there. Now let's see. back to our terminal. Okay, so now we have one untracked file. We will add it like what? Okay, add. We are going to add everything in here, and then what we are going to do? We are going to although this is not a command, we are going to add a message. Include include arguments and parameter example. Right. Okay. Now after this, we have to understand that there is typically there are different type of parameters in your Python itself. Right? So there are different type of parameters in this one. So the different types of parameters which we have in this one is your the positional parameters and the default parameters. Okay. So when we talk about the positional parameters in this one, right? When you talk about the positional parameters in this one, this is a simple subtract function in this. Okay. This is a simple subtract function in this one. Getting very thirsty for some reason. Okay. So this is a simple subtract function. Okay. Subtract function is this one. Simple subtract function is this. Now it takes two arguments, which is a and b. They are taking two arguments in this one, and then they are subtracting b from a, and then we are getting some kind of output. And the subtraction happens within the argument of print function itself. So that is what is happening. And then we are calling the subtract function with two arguments. The first one is 10 and 5, and then we are calling subtract function with two arguments, which is 5 and 10. Okay. And typically what I try to tell in this one that the order matters in this one. So these are positional parameters. So the order of the parameters does actually matter what you are writing in this one. Okay. So that is what we have to understand in this. Okay. So let's go ahead and actually do this practical. Okay. So let's make this subs.py. I will just write this as subs.py. Now the the function will be subtract. Okay, function will be subtract. We are getting two arguments in this one, not the arguments again. We are getting two parameters in this. Right? These are the parameters. We have to remember that these are the parameters, not the arguments. And then we are getting print. Print is there. See, when you are writing for CBSE, because CBSE will have a theoretical paper of mostly, and practical is very less. However, the intelligence of the theory comes from the practical itself, right? So the intelligence of the theory comes from the practical itself. So that is why you have to be concentrating on the practicals itself, and that is from where you will get actually the intelligence of the theory which you have to do, right? That is how the CBSE question papers were actually made, designed, done. So that is there. In any case, I do have to provide some of the question papers, answer question papers, and other things. That kind of reminds me, yeah, I do have to provide sample question papers. Although last 5 years question papers I do have to provide for that. I will probably do that in the morning. probably do that in the morning. Yeah. If I have time, then okay. So yeah, these two are done. Two calling are done. Now when we call this one Python subs.py, like we are getting 5 and minus 5. Okay. So if we look at the program itself, in here the order matters. So these are the positional parameters. So a minus b is not same as b minus a. So if you're giving a as 10 and 5 and b as 5 in here as the parameters argument, then we are getting 5 as an output. Okay. So we are getting 5 as an output. Let me open a new tab and just run this. So subs.5. py is not here. Okay. It is Python. Switching between different operating systems from different computers is also like I do not have that PY stuff. It's just like somewhere I teach it is there. So yeah. So Python 5 we are getting 5 in here and minus 5 in the second. So in here if we can compare the first argument is 10 and the second argument is 5. So we are getting a positive 5 in this one. And if we like go on and like compare this one, if we are assigning, if we are giving the argument as positive 5 for the first parameter and the second argument as 10 for the second parameter, now it gets as negative 5 in this one. Right. So these positional, that is why it is called the positional parameters, and that is why we say that the position and the order matters in this one. Okay. I'll just include this as what? Include an example of what? Positional parameter example. Okay. And then we are going to keep it in our remote repository that we have to also do. All right, so firstly again. Okay, now what we have to like understand in this one is the default parameters. Okay, we have to understand what is the default parameters. When we talk about default parameters, the position of the default parameters actually doesn't matter that much. Okay, so like in this I have written, typically what I have written in here is that you can assign the default value to a parameter in a function definition. If an argument is missing during the function call, the default value is zero. This is a simple stuff which is I have written, and the rule in this one is the non-default arguments cannot follow the default argument. Okay, so when you're talking about following up, like it's like you cannot have non-default parameters after the default parameter. So this one is the default parameters. After that, you cannot have non-default parameters. So the default parameters would always and always be at the right hand side of the parameter formation when you are giving your function definition typically. Yeah. So that is what you have to understand in this one. Okay. So let me just clear this out. So let me just make one more file is default parameters dot y. Okay. So here, I'm going to list me. In here, I'm going to make one function. Um, lest. I'm speaking old English again. Lest die. Lest. Speaking old English again. Okay. Anyways. Uh, so parameters. Okay, parameters. When we are talking about parameters, name. Uh, name is here, and then message is here. The message will be what? Good morning. Good morning. Right. So the first parameter is your name, and the second parameter is your default parameter, which has the good morning stuff. Okay. And in the body of the function we can include what? We can include the hello, and what we can include? Name. Name is it, as well as we can include one of the stuff is, okay. So the typically, even if you do not include the second parameter, which is the message one, it will still read the person in which in the first parameter argument which we have given. Okay, so this will be like what? Intro, we are calling this one, we are calling this function, and then we are getting what? Alice is there. Okay, and then we have intro, and then um, we have Bob, and then the second argument will be how are you? Right. So that is it. That is it. Now, typically, let me just add in the question mark which was missing. Let me just add in the question mark. I missed a meeting today. Damn. I missed a meeting today. Let me see if it is available in here or not. I was too occupied with things today. Let me see if I can get a minutes of meeting of this one, then that would be a good thing. Okay. So, anyways, we'll just get to that and get a summarized view of what was the meeting about. Anyway, so when we are talking about these functions, okay, when we are talking about these functions, in here, what is there? That Alice is there, which is the first function, and the second argument we have not given in this one, right? So if you like, so set number, right? So when you're talking about line number 4, when you talk about line number 4 in this one, see, we do not have any second argument in this one, so the default argument will be taken. And in the line number 5, we have the first argument as well as the second argument. So because the second argument is good, that is why the second parameter, when you're talking about the good morning, that will also be typically be there. Okay, so typically be there, so it will be overridden by the second argument which we are providing to the second parameter, and it will output as your uh, Bob, how are you? So typically, what we have to understand in this one, let me just tune a bit, adjust this, and that would be good. Okay, so in here, the first parameter is getting Bob, as an argument, and the second parameter, which already has a default argument, which is good morning, is getting a second argument as your uh, how are you as the argument. So in here, if the question should ask you is that what is the line number 4 output will be? It will be Alice, good morning. And if someone asks you what will be the output of the line number 5, it will be Bob, how are you? So let's see if we are correct or not. Okay, let's see if we are correct or not. So we have what? Uh, Python and will be default parameters for parameters.py. We are making a one mistake is that we are writing this is wrong. So default parameters. So in here, you see, you're getting some error in this one. Okay, you're getting some error in this one. This typically means that either you are tired of like yeah using the computers, or that you are missing something and like typing all this thing, or you're going faster than usual. So you're probably stressed also. Like, so that is one of the reasons. So like programmers intuition kicks in this one, as in like if lot of errors are happening, it is better to leave that and take rest. So in here, see the error. What is happening in this one is like there is a syntax error, and it says that it is missing a colon in this one. So it is what it is doing. It is missing a colon in this one. So when I made the function, typically when I made the function in here, it didn't had any colon in here, but I have changed your indentation in here. So this one will fix it out as what? See, in here indentation is there. So after any block we have, this is one block which has no indentation. After this block, when we get to the function block, which is also called the code block. So this particular code block is a function block. It has leading spaces in it. So when there is a leading space in it, the definition above it or the statement above it will have a colon in this one. Okay, so that should be there. Okay, so that should be there. And then these are the two functions in here. We are going to add this in the record of the Git, and we are going to commit it as um, include default parameters function example. All right, so that is there. How much I have talked in here? 33 minutes. Okay, 33 minutes. Huh. I think I should just make a part two. Take some rest. Probably. Yeah. No use stretching this out. All right, so we will continue with the part three of function, and when we are talking about returning values from the function. Okay. So that is all for now. Um, yeah, that is all for now.